Okay, so the science behind nuclear war or weaponry is a little confusing, but the overall idea makes a lot of sense. So, a nuclear weapon is defined as a device designed to release energy in an explosive manner as a result of nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, or a combination of the two. So, nuclear fission, which essentially created the atomic bomb, is the splitting of a heavy atomic nucleus, most commonly uranium or plutonium, into two lighter nuclei. The splitting of atoms will cause a chain reaction, and a chain reaction is defined as nuclear fission, which yields free neutrons after the atom is split, and that creates multiple fission reactions. And so, nuclear fission is essentially releases a large quantity of energy, which creates radioactive products. And this energy can be controlled in a nuclear reactor, which is the uh, pretty much the science behind the nuclear power plants. They're able to control this energy, creating the ability to transfer it to other places. And the other option is uncontrolled, which is the atomic bomb, where it just spreads out over large areas. And then there's nuclear fusion, which made the hydrogen bomb. And uh, nuclear fusion is a process by which nuclear reactions between light elements form heavier elements. So it's pretty much the opposite of the atomic bomb. Although this process is much more powerful than the atomic bomb, I believe it's about 1,000 times more powerful. And then this releases energy due to the binding energy, and binding energy is used. It is the same energy that stars produce. So when stars form, this is the energy that is required. And Tsar Bomba, which is the largest bomb ever made by mankind, was detonated by the USSR, and it went through a similar process of a hydrogen bomb. However, after the fusion process was complete, the extra neutron given off by each helium nucleus was used to create a small additional fission reaction with a small amount of uranium. So that's where you see the combination of both fusion and fission. And so essentially, the Tsar Bomba was three bombs, an atomic explosion to start the fission reaction, which is how all nuclear weapons are started by a small explosive, which initiates the splitting or forming of the elements, and an additional atomic explosion after the fusion reaction. So that's what made it so large and powerful. So for development in future, the science behind the nuclear bomb and nuclear weaponry is pretty consistent. You have the certain elements that perform better than others, and physicists and scientists have tested other elements, and these ones are the ones that work the best. So the science behind it will pretty much stay the same, but there are a lot of technical additions that could be used, like the B6112 or the nuclear gravity bomb uses dial-a-yield technology, which is essentially the ability to adjust the force of the nuclear bomb before it is launched. And this is an extraordinary thing because the people who are in charge of using these missiles can change how much force they want when the bomb explodes. And this missile is also able to be guided, which will improve the accuracy and also produce less civilian deaths and more accuracy towards the targeted area. And the accuracy is improved by steerable fins, which pretty much means the missile is able to be guided. Also, another way or another area where the nuclear bomb could improve is the price. The B6112 costs about $11 billion alone, which is quite expensive. And also, salted bombs, which are radiological weapons that produce large quantities of radioactive fallout, could be developed. No one has made one of these yet, but the science is there. And pretty much the explosion isn't as strong, but the radioactive material is what the punishment of that bomb would be. Also, people want an idea or want a world with no nuclear weapons. They feel as though these weapons are too powerful that for people to use and could potentially eliminate the human race or vary it vastly if there was an all-out nuclear war. And the Anti-Proliferation Treaty was a treaty to limit the expansion of nuclear weapon technology. So people don't actually want to expand nuclear weapons because they feel like they're already powerful enough and almost too powerful. So benefits of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology. It increases the security and power of the United States. Obviously, the United States likes to be a world powerhouse, and they like to have the most advanced technology and defense systems, so it helps our reputation. However, it also deters major wars from happening, which seems a little contradicting, but people are more likely to negotiate first instead of just attacking another country because of the fear of nuclear weapons. And it allows development of nuclear energy, which is the most efficient source of energy since it doesn't need to be controlled by wind, water, sun, heat. It's just energy, and energy will always be there because it cannot be created nor destroyed. The process is very green. It produces just water vapor, so it's not affecting the environment at all. It uses fission, so obviously it wouldn't use the strength of a hydrogen bomb in fusion, but it's also very reliable since it can be used 24/7, and it is low operating costs. Current issues, obviously the nuclear war among current world powers, especially North Korea right now. When I was making this PowerPoint, my phone popped up an article from CNN, which said North Korea warns their newly tested missile can hit U.S. targets with a large nuclear warhead. So that's obviously making people rethink of the Cold War and how the tension between two countries in the nuclear spectrum. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, especially since people don't even want North Korea to have nuclear weapons. And also, countries have to decide who's allowed to have nuclear weapons. The International Convention for the Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism states that countries involved in acts of terrorism on a regional or global basis are not allowed to obtain nuclear weapons. This obviously keeps the world safe and for people who are a little more reasonable and not going to use them in a immature matter. Also, is it worth it economically to continue funding for nuclear weapons? The U.S. has spent $179 billion over the last 9 years, which is $20 billion per year, and this doesn't include the cost of maintaining America's nuclear deterrent, so their nuclear defense system. It's projected to cost $500 billion in the next 20 years. Also, people get a little worried about nuclear radiation as there is currently no way to dispose of nuclear waste. But scientists are figuring out ways to reuse the nuclear waste in energy forms, which would help eliminate that issue. And they've found a way to power spacecrafts with this nuclear waste. So that's an interesting idea. Also, the potential danger of a nuclear spill, especially in the nuclear power plants. We saw this happen in Chernobyl, where there was a huge evacuation, and that part of the region is unable to perform due to the radiation. So that scares many people away from nuclear energy because of the nuclear radiation effects on the human body with deformation and sickness. And yeah, and people also wonder if it's morally correct. I touched on this a little bit on the last slide, but is it okay to have this powerful weapon in a handful of people's palms essentially? And is it okay that we support these things? Also, the Iran nuclear deal. Um, uh, so the Iran nuclear deal allows Iran to produce nuclear weapons at a slow rate with the U.S. watching over them. People were very on opposite spectrums of this. People didn't like the idea of Iran having nuclear weapons, but the Obama administration approved the Iran nuclear deal, and it will be interesting to see how that plays out, especially with our current political leadership. Then here's just a funny picture of what evolution could look like if there was a nuclear war. And that is it.